Welcome back, everyone. We're going to be doing 8 for day 6, which is essentially just more of what we practiced yesterday. So let's go ahead and take a look. You might need calculator, print off the worksheet 8 for day 6 and chapters 8 notes. The next two examples are in your notes section. So the first example here is asking us to solve the right triangle. And what that means is they're asking us to find each of the angles. So they want us to find both the measure of angle A and the measure of angle B. So we'll be using several inverse trig functions here. The first one, let's start with angle A, and we're going to identify our sides. So this would be our opposite, and this would be our adjacent. So to figure out the measure of the angle A, we're going to have to use the trig function that uses opposite and adjacent, which is tangent inverse. And we're going to put in there our fraction, A, which is the opposites are opposite first, which is 4, and our adjacent, which is 7. Then we need a calculator. Again, make sure that you are in degrees. So we go second tangent and 4/7. And we get that the measure of that angle rounded to degrees. Okay, the next thing that we're going to be using, I'm going to go ahead and but our places are going to be switched. So this is going to be opposite, and this will be adjacent. So the next one is going to be tan -1, and this time we're going to have 7/4. So we get that to the nearest degree would be 60 degrees. And this is supposed to be degrees up here. All right, the other thing that they want us to do is to figure out this missing side. So we're going to have to use Pythagorean theorem to figure out that side. So according to Pythagorean theorem, I'm just going to scroll down here for a little bit, we'd have 4 squared plus 7 squared is equal to c squared. So we have 16 plus 49. So go to our graphing or to the calculator. Okay, we get yes, if this happens, what you have to do is put a little decimal place in there. So 65, and then put a decimal, and it should shoot that out. So that missing side there is about 8.06 according to, I'm going to pull this up here. So our missing side is 8.06. And it says to round to the nearest hundredth, so we would just say h is equal to 8.06. And we are done. Okay, so in this case, again, we want to figure out the measure of angle B and the measure of angle A. And we're going to start with here the measure of angle A. So we're going to use tangent inverse, and opposite would be our 11. Adjacent is going to be our 8. And we just need the calculator. So second tangent, we have 11/8. And we get to the nearest degree would be 54 degrees. So to do the next problem, to figure out angle B, again, we're going to use tangent inverse. And this time we have to start over because we've changed the location of our angle. So if we're talking about angle B, this would be my opposite. This would be my adjacent, so inside here I would have 8 over 11. The calculator again to help us. Second tan, and we're going to reverse that. I'll let 8 over 11. And we get that it's about 36 degrees. So using Pythagorean theorem, again, we're trying to find our c value here. So c squared is going to equal 8 squared plus 11 squared. So we get a calculator. We do many steps here. Okay. So second, do 11 squared plus 8 squared. Put a little decimal in there. So we get that that missing side length is 13.601. So we would have that AB, line AB is equal to 13.60. The next two examples are going to be from your worksheet, so if you could take that out, we'll go over those rather quickly. So again, they want us to find this angle measure. So we have to identify our sides. So here we have the opposite. Here we have our hypotenuse. So in this case, we're going to use, that's right, we're going to be using inverse sine. And opposite 15 over 24. And we need the calculator to help us. Inverse sine and 15 over 24. And we get that it is going to be equal to about 39 degrees if we're rounding to the nearest whole. Okay, on to our last problem. We have two examples here that I'm going to go over. These are on the back side. So here I drew a picture to represent this problem. A ladder is leaning against the wall. It makes a 75-degree angle with the ground. So we have that this is 75 degrees. We know that the ladder is 6 feet from the wall, so we know that this distance here is 6 feet. What is the length of the ladder? So we have given this information. The 6 represents adjacent. So we're going to be using a regular trig function, not the inverse here. The reason why I'm using a regular trig function is because I'm given an angle. So this will be cosine, so just simply cosine 75 degrees, and again that's just a number. We're going to use the calculator. Adjacent is 6 and hypotenuse is x. Cosine 75, and that does, oh, it's 0.259, let's say. Then we would just divide both sides by and again, we just need to use the calculator to help us on that one. So So 6 divided by 259 is 20. So the ladder itself is going to be 23.17. We'll be done for today. So Jaden is flying a kite that has 275 feet of string. If the kite is 150 feet above the ground, what is the angle that the string makes with the ground? So we have to assume that we have this length here of 275, and we know that the the kite is about 150 feet above the ground. Here's our ground. So we want to know what angle does the string make with the ground. So that is this angle here. So in this case, we have opposite, we have hypotenuse. So we'll be using, we'll be using the inverse trig function cosine, sine. So we'll go cosine -1 and opposite is 150. The hypotenuse 275. And then we'll use the calculator to help us. So it's making about a 57-degree angle. So here. And we'll just round to the nearest whole number, so it's making a 57-degree angle. And that is the end of day 6. Tomorrow we're going to be moving on to 8.5 and be talking about angles of incline, decline.